We are bracing ourselves because this year it will, it's not a question of whether it will be bad.
She's urging everyone to get vaccinated and mask up.
There is political tension ahead of the 20th anniversary of 9/11. Nearly 2,000 families directly impacted by the terror attacks are asking President Biden not to attend any memorial events. That's unless he allows documents to go public that could link Saudi Arabian leaders to the attacks. There's also bipartisan pressure from Congress through the September 11th Transparency Act. The bill aims to declassify more FBI and CIA documents. Now, this week, we learned that 2 more officers who responded to the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol have died by suicide. At least 4 officers who defended the Capitol have now died this way. A recently started program aims to help Capitol Police through their trauma and hopefully prevent more tragedies.
Giving people the tools they need to understand and take care of themselves and become aware of their stress before it gets to that point, and creating an atmosphere where you can talk about what you're experiencing and not feel so much shame or move through the shame.
Psychiatrist James Gordon is leading the program with Capitol Police, and he sees this as something that can be replicated at police departments across the country. The program, through the Center for Mind-Body Medicine, is working to help create a culture of self-care and vulnerability in police departments.
This is not, bringing a whole bunch of therapists somewhere. It's not just teaching a yoga class or teaching a meditation class. Though we bring all of those aspects into our work. It's creating a whole program that creates change in the culture for everyone and that doesn't stigmatize or isolate.
He says officers learn coping mechanisms and techniques related to breathing and diet. And he says that ultimately it's important for officers to share their experiences with each other. Capitol Police need Congress to pass additional funding to expand the mental health program, and Dr. Gordon is hopeful that Congress and state and local governments will see this type of funding isn't just in the interest of the officers' well-being, but it also helps retain officers and helps with community relations.
I'm hopeful that the work that we do with police and also the focus on the mental health of police will help everyone in this country begin to come to terms with all the stress that all of us have been under.
The Center for Mind-Body Medicine has online groups available to anyone, and you can find information about them at cmbm.org. Researchers are getting closer to figuring out what may cause a deadly form of heart disease in dogs. The new findings pointing towards certain ingredients in dog food.
Well, it's the last day of the Texas special session, but with Republicans in Austin and House Democrats in D.C., what comes next as the battle lines are drawn? Coming up, we see when the next session starts. The Texas special session is over, at least for now. The clock ran out on Governor Greg Abbott's first special session, with battle lines still drawn between Republicans in Austin and Democrats in Washington. The next special session, though, kicks off tomorrow. Abbott says his 17-item agenda will pass, regardless of what lawmakers outside of Texas think. Meanwhile, Texas Democrats remain defiant tonight. And a criminal complaint has been filed against New York Governor Andrew Cuomo over sexual misconduct allegations. The lawyer for a former staffer filed the complaint with the Albany Sheriff's Office. The woman's name has not been released. She was among the 11 women who accused Cuomo of sexually harassing them in the state attorney general's report. According to that report, she told investigators Cuomo grabbed her behind during hugs and a photo. He also allegedly touched her breasts under her blouse at the governor's mansion. The governor denied inappropriately touching the woman in his testimony. Citizenship eligibility rules for children are being expanded. The Biden administration is changing how it interprets an immigration law surrounding children who were born to surrogates overseas. Babies who are born in foreign countries are eligible for citizenship as long as one parent is a U.S. citizen. The baby does not need to be biologically related to the American parent. However, the parents must be married. Apple is testing a new system that searches iPhone and iCloud photos for illegal images. The company's software will try to match photos from Apple devices to those on a database from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. If enough photos are flagged, an Apple review team will disable the user's account and alert authorities. Privacy advocates have called the system, quote, an infrastructure for surveillance and censorship. Apple says its system does not scan personal photos. Yelp has added a new feature that lets businesses list whether they require proof of COVID vaccination from customers and whether all workers are fully vaccinated. Yelp users can then filter their searches for businesses by those attributes. Only businesses themselves can add the attributes to their Yelp page. Yelp says it will monitor the pages of businesses that decide to use the attributes for any backlash for their vaccination policies. The strength of U.S. labor market continues to grow. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics released its jobs report today. Last month, the country saw its biggest jobs gain since August of last year. The economy added 943,000 jobs in July. That beats economists' expectations by more than 70,000 jobs. The unemployment rate also fell to 5.4%, a new low in this pandemic. Rent prices are on the rise. The national average effective rent rose 0.6% between April and June to nearly $1,400 per month. That's according to Moody's Analytics. Zillow's rent index shot up more than 7% in June alone. And Freddie Mac predicts apartment rents will rise another 2.5% this year. Now let's get a check of the weather with First Alert meteorologist Caleb Chevalier.
Yeah, Hallie, we're not quite done with the rain this evening. We're seeing a lot of that rain kind of coming out of the I-10 area, and it's been working into the Brazos Valley this evening. Not a ton of rain, but some showers here and there with an occasional rumble of thunder. This activity won't completely wind down until we really see the sun go down. So can't rule out some more scattered showers in the Brazos Valley for the evening. Looks like it's going to be staying out of central Texas. It's more of a closer to the coast kind of thing for this evening. Tonight, we're going to be looking at lows around, well, it could be in the mid-70s. 76 for Bryan College Station, 74 for Navasota and Anderson, and Cameron, you could have a low of 72 degrees for tonight. It does get a little bit warmer tomorrow, or at least it's going to try to. Some locations could actually be just as warm as they were today. It depends on who saw the rain today or not. 90 degrees in Centerville, 92 in Madisonville. Bryan College Station, you'll have a high of 93. Also Caldwell 93 and Rockdale with a high of 91 degrees for tomorrow. And those temperatures are a little cool for this time of year, but it's not going to stay that way. There's plenty of some warmer weather coming up. So cannot rule out again some of these showers be continuing, maybe even new ones blossoming over the next few hours. But beyond sunset, that should be fading away, giving us a partly cloudy overnight as temperatures drop into those low 70s. Now tomorrow, Future Track also wants to start painting some further showers for your afternoon, which I'm not really latching onto. I think generally it's going to be a dry day with maybe an exception near Anderson or Navasota, a little bit of some shower activity, and that's going to just about do it. So we should be seeing more sunshine and less in the way of rain for Saturday. Certainly more sun coming for Sunday. This is going to be featuring quite a bit of sun, no rain in the area, and that'll allow things to warm up. We are going to be looking at the mid-90s before too long. There you go. 95 degrees on Sunday. Morning lows of 76 degrees. It's going to be mild. Plenty of sun. There's no rain out there until we get to Friday, and even then, that's a very iffy chance. 95 degrees on Thursday. Once we get beyond the weekend, things are going to get even hotter, and we'll make a run at 97 degrees next week.
The mystery behind what types of diets may cause dogs to develop a deadly form of heart disease is slowly unraveling.
So we looked at foods that have been associated with DCM and more typical foods. And I think the key results were interesting because we were able to identify quite a few specific compounds.
Veterinary nutritionist Dr. Lisa Freeman is part of a team at Cummings School of Veterinary Medicine at Tufts University. They looked at dog foods associated with dilated cardiomyopathy in dogs and other traditional dog foods. They were able to identify biochemical compounds that were higher and lower in diets associated with DCM. Now, 4 ingredients distinguish the 2 diet groups, and that was peas, lentils, chicken or turkey, and rice. Now, of these, peas showed the greatest association with higher concentrations of compounds in DCM-associated diets.
And again, those could be things that could be too low in the diet or could actually be too high in the diet. So that's one of the next steps that we'll be looking at, both in the diets as well as in the dogs themselves.
Dr. Freeman says this is no smoking gun. Instead, it gives them compounds to target in their next research in dogs. Meantime, she recommends taking talking to your vet about a diet that is best for your dog based on size and breed, also buying from well-established dog food manufacturers, and buy food with common, well-researched ingredients, including grains.
This is a problem that really has been literally keeping me up at night, so I wish we had the answer. But I think it does get us a step closer to solving the problem and gives us a lot of targets to look at in greater detail.
The FDA has reports of dogs and cats dying from this particular heart disease that were on all sorts of diets. Now, it could be about the amount of ingredients or a combination of ingredients or genetics, and that's why vets nor the FDA are steering dog owners away from any ingredient in particular. But the FDA has identified food brands associated with the investigation. The Tokyo Olympics helped raise awareness on prioritizing mental health in sports. And now athletes around the world are sharing the pressures they face at the top of their game. Michelle London talked with a former basketball player who related to Simone Biles' decision, turning his years-long struggle into success.
There we go.
Arzell Lewis knows what it means to be a champion.
My senior year, I became all-conference, and I had some Defensive Player of the Year awards.
Reflecting on his playing days as a Division I basketball player at Idaho State, Lewis was on the fast track to success on the court. But something was missing.
I was at NBA pre-draft camp, and I basically was one of, 4 or 5 people there, 3 people there with no dad, manager, or agent.
Lewis admits struggling to play on a top level without his father in the stands, something he was forced to come to terms with as a junior in high school.
My dad was convicted and given 96 years in prison for cannabis, 3 cannabis charges. Once I found that out, to me, it felt like my dad had died. So I was pretty much out there all by myself.
Arzell says those feelings of isolation brought on extreme pressure and insecurity that showed up during games.
I didn't always shoot the ball when I was supposed to shoot the ball. I didn't always, take that chance that I could have taken because I didn't always believe in myself.
Back then in the early 2000s, Lewis said he ignored his mental state and toughened it out because of the stigma placed around prioritizing mental health, especially in sports. And he's not alone.
They've got a dream and a goal, and they're working hard to get there.
Dr. Steve Portanga, performance psychologist with iPerformance Consultants.
And a lot of athletes often get into situations, particularly in the Olympics, which only happen every 4 years, that not only do they want to do it for themselves, but they want to do it for everyone that has supported them along the way.
During the Tokyo Olympics, the topic on athletes prioritizing mental health received global recognition when gymnast Simone Biles dropped out of the team competition.
And I think in doing what Simone did, a tremendous role model for other athletes to be able to take a break, hit pause, reflect when they need to.
Portanga says it's also helping to raise awareness and maybe even break the stigma attached. According to a recent Axios study, stories done on mental health in athletes have generated at least 2 million interactions.
Part of their identity, how they value themselves, how they think other people value them, is tied into their performance and that expectation.
Just the amount of stress and the amount of work that I did with the staff and the coaches. People being away from family, adults having roommates for the first time.
Portanga helps his clients to stop connecting their identity with their performance, finding other areas to place their value.
And trying to really cultivate some of those types of experience based on whatever values they have. For a lot of athletes, it's trying to have a platform to maybe eventually do some speaking, something to help give back to other athletes.
And Lewis has done just that. He shares his story often, using the lessons, even the tough ones from basketball, as a blueprint for his success. Launching a magazine called Becoming a Champion 3 years ago, he's on a mission to help younger athletes.
I'm just trying to expose them to different industries and areas of life that I wasn't exposed to.
Using lessons he learned to keep their mental health at the forefront.
And that's the importance of really taking care of yourself, mind, body, and soul.
I'm Michelle London, reporting.
Leaders in cybersecurity are converging in Vegas this weekend to share the latest information on security risks and trends. Checkpoint Research is unveiling a security flaw in Amazon Kindles. Could have allowed a threat actor to take over the device by way of downloading a malicious ebook.
This particular attack would have turned a Kindle device into a weapon on your home network, for example, that could have then subsequently attacked, your laptops or your mobile devices.
Now, through the Responsible Disclosure Agreement, Checkpoint made Amazon aware of the security flaw before it went public or could be exploited. Amazon created a fix, a firmware update released back in April. It should automatically download to Kindle devices when connected to the internet, and that is something that you should check for. Now, the big takeaway is that any device that connects to the internet could easily become a security risk.
E-readers, washing machines, mobile devices, laptops, they're all connected anymore. So trying to keep up with those latest security fixes is a real challenge for most people.
Now, along with updating security software, never trust third-party emails, whether it is a free ebook or a link to a website. A lot of people get free content on their Kindle through the email address that Amazon offers everyone, and that could easily allow bad actors to target specific demographics.
Somebody that wanted to, compromise people, they could offer a favorable political book that would then bait people into downloading it and then be compromised. Or maybe it's COVID or ransomware or any of the subjects that are dominating and preying on our fears.
Well, we know the saying is better late than never, but for this Bryan native, the meaning holds the weight of Aggie gold. Krhd News reporter Hannah King shares the journey of Dr. Joe Knowles in receiving a degree nearly 70 years in the making.
If I would take a 3-hour course in freehand drawing, they would give me my degree. I never did take it.
70 years later, with the help of a neighbor and the experience from using this medical bag, Dr. Knowles is getting his undergraduate degree.
Many medicines.
He used this bag for 35 years.
Had stethoscopes.
But his biology degree is twice as long in the making. Growing up in Bryan, he knew what it meant to be an Aggie and wanted to make sure he was one.
The Aggies had the type of ideals or had the type of desires and whatnot that I admire.
I am an Aggie myself, and I have that diploma. I know how much this university means to him, and I just really wanted him to have it.
Maroon isn't all he knows. He had a brief stint as a Longhorn, but it's what Dr. Knowles knows best.
I got my acceptance to Texas University Medical School in Galveston. And I left A&M and I went to the University of Texas Medical School in Galveston. I graduated there in 1953.
Doing it all for the little boy growing up in Bryan many years ago, and for his mother, who helped make it all happen.
After my mother sent me $125 a month, and sent my sister $150 a month to go to school on. She had $3.25 left. They came up with $50 for my bag.
He was a young boy in Bryan in the 40s during World War II and worked as a local paper boy. He saw something on his routes often, something that meant sacrifice and honor.
I passed lots of windows that had stars in them. People in that house were in the Army. A lot of those stars were gold, and you know what that meant.
And an Aggie degree would be a star in his window.
If I can have a piece of paper that says, yes, Joe, you graduated from A&M.
Originally, he was meant to be a member of the class of 1950. He says he's always been an Aggie, enrolled or not.
My wife, she bleeds maroon. And that whenever I walk across the stage and get my diploma from Texas A&M, 70 years too late, I'm going to feel good in here.
Dr. Knowles believes he is one of only 2 who entered UTMB, University of Texas Medical Branch at Galveston, without an undergraduate degree. His graduation here at Texas A&M is set for Friday, August 13th at Reed Arena with the class of 2021. Reporting from Texas A&M, Hannah King, Krhd News. A great race against time as the search for a venomous cobra continues near Dallas. Alex Rozier has more on this skin-crawling story.
Hopefully he's still in the neighborhood.
It's day 2 of snake watch in Grand Prairie.
More times than not, we recover these things.
Russell Kennedy with Dallas-Fort Worth Wildlife Control assembled these traps overnight, hoping to catch a West African banded cobra.
He'll go in the trap. Once he starts heading in, it's got spikes in there. He can't turn the other way. He's got to come all the way up.
The 6-foot-long, 2-inch-wide venomous cobra escaped in Trey Matt's home Tuesday after what he called a caging malfunction.
Only took a couple minutes.
Now Trey has no idea where it is.
I'm doing everything that I can to help retrieve the snake.
As you may guess,
it's dangerous.
His neighbor isn't thrilled.
It's scary. I mean, look at my granddaughters. I can't take them out anymore because of this neighbor of mine, what he did.
But some of you may be wondering, is it even legal to own a venomous 6-foot snake in Texas? The state issues permits for venomous snakes, but owners must follow local rules. Grand Prairie police say it's too early to say what law, if any, were broken.
These things can travel fast. They can go pretty far.
So until this snake is found, Russell will keep setting traps.
This will work. It won't lure him in from down the street, but if he's within about 20 feet or so, this will lure him over to the trap.
It's an unusual time.
It's hard for us to go to sleep.
On Cherry Street.
He's either circling, he came out and hid somewhere, could be still in the house.
Well, athletes in Tokyo still have days to grab Olympic glory. WTAW's Zach Taylor shows us what's ahead in the final days of Tokyo 2020.
Here's your 25 sports update with WTAW's Zach Taylor.
Hey KRHD viewers, Texas A&M football kicked off its fall camp earlier today. The Aggies will hold an open public practice this Sunday at Kyle Field. Fans are allowed to attend starting at 4:30 p.m. It was a good day for Team USA in Tokyo. Wrestler Gable Stevenson rallied to win gold in the men's freestyle. Meanwhile, the team of April Ross and Alex Kleiman picked up the win in women's beach volleyball. Men's basketball will face France tonight in the gold medal game at 9:30. As it stands, the U.S. currently leads the total medal count with 98, but trails China in gold medals 36-31. The first NFL preseason game in 2 years was held last night in Canton, Ohio, as the Pittsburgh Steelers bested the Dallas Cowboys 16-3. Now both teams played mostly reserves in the Hall of Fame game. The Houston Astros will look to put a stop to a 2-game skid tonight when they host the Minnesota Twins at Minute Maid. First pitch is at 7:10. Meanwhile, the Texas Rangers try to get back on the wind wagon as they head out west to visit the Oakland A's. First pitch for that one is at 8:40. From the WTAW Sports Studio, I'm Zach Taylor.
Now let's head on over to First Alert meteorologist Caleb Chevalier.
Tonight we're looking at lows in the mid-70s. Now 76 might be pushing it. I think generally more 74 to 75 degrees, perhaps even 72 out in Cameron and Rockdale. It could be a little bit cooler for those who have seen some rain this evening. And by the way, that rain will be coming to an end shortly after sunset. Tomorrow we're going to be back into those low 90s, and this is not quite early August weather, but those temperatures are going to be coming back before too long. So 94 in Hearn, 92 in Franklin, 93 in Navasota, and Bryan College Station will have a high of 93 degrees tomorrow. And keep in mind, the humidity is still going to be there, so it's going to feel like the upper 90s at times. Here's featured track for you, which is going to keep some showers around the Brazos Valley for the evening. Again, we've kind of been seeing those coming and going with some thunder embedded in that, but that's not going to be sticking around too long. Beyond 8 o'clock, we should be drying out, leaving us with partly cloudy conditions overnight. Now, that will lead us to a dry Saturday. I know Future Track is trying to put some showers out there. I'm not buying it. I think really it's going to be a rather dry day. And the same can be said for Sunday. Plenty of sunshine out there, and this is when things start to get warmer. We'll be making our way back into those mid-90s. But for tomorrow, we should be 88 degrees with partly cloudy at noon, 92 at 4 o'clock, mostly sunny conditions there, and 83 at 10 as those clouds dissipate. So the mid-90s will be back on Sunday, and we're looking at 95 as well on Monday. Plenty of dry weather down through the week, maybe a little bit of rain there on Friday, but we'll be looking at temperatures around 95 to 97 in the week ahead.
Let's check in on the news feed. The economy is roaring back. Employers added 943,000 jobs in July. Unemployment is down to 5.4%, and those are numbers that are better than what economists were predicting. Now, many small businesses have jobs to fill, but owners of those small businesses want them filled by better candidates. A National Federation of Independent Business report found that labor quality is the overall top concern they have right now. Job growth can be tied to vaccination rates, according to a new study. Payroll company Gusto says that states that had high vaccination rates saw jobs grow. Now, for those states where vaccination rates were low, job growth was at a much slower pace. New data is creating context around the number of people who get COVID-19 after being vaccinated. The Kaiser Family Foundation found that 1 in 900 vaccinated people had a breakthrough infection. That is about the same odds as dying in a motorcycle accident, according to the National Safety Council. Now, while most breakthrough cases come with mild or no symptoms, 1 in 17,000 were hospitalized and 1 in 83,000 died. For perspective, you are more likely to die from bee stings. Now, many children missed out on their yearly physicals during the pandemic, including ones needed to play sports. On Monday, the effect that this is having on their health and what doctors say we now need to do about it to play catch up. Tens of thousands of people across the country live with a form of brain cancer. There are several forms of the tumors in children that are not curable. Forrest Sanders shares the hope that many have through a clinical trial to benefit all people living with cancer.
The journal entries begin a few months ago for a teen who believed in living up to your full potential.
There it is. I hope it's okay.
It's what led Dylan Lawrence to play every instrument he could find.
The guitar, acoustic and bass, the drums, tuba, sousaphone. He would just run with it. He just took to it like a sea turtle to water.
Dylan's stepmom, Susan, makes an apt comparison. Since he was 3, Dylan loved sea turtles, which led him to decide he wanted to be a marine veterinarian. But Dylan started writing these journal entries after he got a hard diagnosis.
In December, he got really sick, took him to the emergency room, and his neuro-oncologist came in and told us that he had diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma and that it was incurable and that the average prognosis was 6 to 8 months.
Dylan was only 16 when he got the news.
According to the American Cancer Society, more than 25,000 malignant tumors of the brain and the spinal cord are diagnosed in the U.S. every year.
For Dylan, the tumor was located in a part of the brainstem called the pons, where it can't be surgically removed because it could damage critical parts of the brain. A DIPG usually happens for children between 5 and 7. Fewer than 10% of them survive 2 years after they're diagnosed.
And I think we have a serious chance of really being able to cure this in the next 10 years.
Keith Deserick is chairman and co-founder of the Cure Starts Now Foundation. He says because DIPG can't be handled through usual treatments, the effort to find a cure may bring something that benefits the cures of all forms of brain cancer, and perhaps all cancers entirely.
By not really having the options of chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, you're forced to invent something brand new.
The foundation works through DIPG.org, which lists 69 current trials across the world, and Dylan chose one. He left his home in Clarksville, Tennessee, and flew out to California to take part in a trial at Stanford University, becoming patient number 11. The treatment is called CAR T therapy, which involves engineering T cells.
CAR T is effectively teaching the body to be able to fight the cancer.
Dylan recorded messages while in California.
There's a lot of hope for this trial, not necessarily just for me, but I hope the hope for others as well. I can help continue the research further along, and eventually this will be cured, and no one will have to go through what I'm going through. I have hope that this is going to do great things. Number 11 out.
We were making plans with Dylan and his family to possibly fly out and meet him in California and tell his story as he went through the clinical trial. We did not get that opportunity. While at home, Dylan died the same week he was scheduled to return to California and begin the trial.
Cancer is not a smiling, bald child who's getting better. Cancer is ghastly and it's horrific, and it took our son away.
People all over the country have sent Dylan's family sea turtles in memory of the kid who taught to live life to its full potential.
When Dylan was diagnosed, he said, "I don't want my life to be pointless." And I promised him that it wouldn't be.
At his request, Dylan's brain has been donated to Stanford's lab to study DIPG. Susan is now Dylan's voice, bringing attention to trials in places like Emory University in Atlanta, Columbia University, and New York.
I imagine most of the people reading this will already know me, but in case we never got the chance to meet. Hi, I'm Dylan J. Lawrence. Take what time you have as a blessing.
In Clarksville, Tennessee, I'm Forrest Sanders.
Demand for rentals is on the rise, and so are rent prices. The national average rent rose 0.6% from April through June to nearly $1,400 per month. This is according to Moody's. Now, Zillow's rent index shot up more than 7% in June alone, and the price increases aren't over. Freddie Mac predicts that apartment rents will rise another 2.5% this year. Now, the good news in all of this is more people are paying rent on time. During the pandemic, e-bikes have become a hot commodity, but the eco-friendly rides, they can be pricey. Usher Krhd takes a look at the e-bike trend and why you might want to wait to buy in order to save some big bucks.
Pandemic boredom.
I started working from home. I was like, I need to get out of the house.
A lack of parking.
I actually sold my car because this was just so much more convenient. You can park on the sidewalk.
Drove Eve Santiago to pony up a few $1,000s for her electric bike.
They're big investments.
But after a few modifications like a new headlight, seat, and upgraded battery, she was off.
If I need to get around traffic, I can easily go into the bike lane because it's an electric bike. It's way more convenient.
It's that convenience that has sparked a boom in the e-bike industry as Americans seek ways to get outside while avoiding commuter crowds.
The catalyst was clearly COVID, and people became more aware of alternative transportation.
During the pandemic, California-based Pedigo Electric Bikes, which has about 200 retail stores around the country, reported sales of $121 million.
Our stores are doing 2 and 3 times the volume they did. Used to take a year before they break even. Now they break even in month 1, and they start making money in month 2. It's just, I've never seen anything like it.
Advocates say e-bikes are great for users with limited ability and mobility and can even lead to a car-free household.
Electric bicycles are truly unique in that electric boost just expands the physical activity of bicycling as an option to so many more Americans.
It's also eco-friendly. A 2019 study from the Transportation Research and Education Center found that a 15% increase in e-bike use across the U.S. could reduce 11% of transportation-related CO2 emissions and would replace 72% of car miles that would have been traveled for strictly practical purposes. Electric bikes can range in price from the very low end at around $600 to $8,000 for high-end e-bikes, not including customization. If you're in the market for an e-bike, it's important to note there's an effort to try and make this kind of transportation more economical for the average consumer. The E-Bike Act, introduced in the Senate with a companion bill in the House, would prioritize electric bicycles as a zero-emission mode of transportation. If passed, it would give consumers a refundable 30% tax credit on the purchase of a new electric bicycle, up to $1,500.
So we're thinking lower income Americans, you are still fully eligible to receive this credit.
Advocates say the goal is to replace short car trips with CO2 eliminating electric bike trips.
You can do it with cargo in the back. You can do it with your groceries for the week. You could do it for deliveries, things like that. It makes hills that much easier, longer distances a bit shorter.
For enthusiasts like Eve Santiago, it's just charge and go.
It's so much more convenient to say, hey, I've got to go run an errand, I'm going to hop on the bike. You don't have to worry about street parking. That is a huge, huge thing.
Reporting from Chicago, I'm Usher Krhd.
Well, thanks for joining us for KRHD News at 6. Be sure to tune in to our next broadcast at 10 p.m.